Hey guys, PokéDan here. We all start off our journeys in a new region with a starter Pokemon. For most, your starter Pokemon will stick with you throughout the whole game and may even be the main Pokemon of your team. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys which starter Pokemon I have chosen in my lifetime of playing Pokemon. If you guys chose different to me, or if you disagree with me about anything I say in this video, be sure to let me know about it in the comments. But without further ado, let's begin. So first, let's start off with Kanto. Quick note, I wasn't even born when these games were released, so I can't exactly say I've had a first-hand experience with them. I have played these games on an emulator though, but let's be honest, it just isn't really the same as playing on a physical copy of the games. But nevertheless, I have played the games, and I have had a starter Pokemon in Kanto. So the Pokemon I chose as my starter was Blastoise. I thought that since everyone chose Charizard, I'd like to be a bit different, so I chose Blastoise. Also, Squirtle is hella adorable, so I just couldn't resist that. Blastoise was the main Pokemon on my team in Kanto. If there was a Pokemon that my other Pokemon on the team couldn't take out, I knew I could rely on Blastoise. It's a strong Pokemon, and it certainly looks epic, so I'm glad I chose it as my starter Pokemon in Kanto. Oh, and also, I chose Squirtle in Pokemon X and Y. But we aren't quite at X and Y yet, so let's move on to Johto. I must admit, I haven't played the original Gold and Silver, but I have played Pokemon Heart Gold and Pokemon Soul Silver. So I guess it is fair to say I have played the Johto games. But hey, at least this time I had a physical copy of the games. Anyway, my reason for choosing Blastoise in Kanto was because everyone chose Charizard, and it seemed that everyone preferred Typhlosion in Johto. So of course, I totally ignored the last thing I did in Kanto, and I chose Typhlosion anyway. I mean, let's face it, Cyndaquil is an adorable Pokemon, both in the games and in the anime, so I chose it as my starter Pokemon in Pokemon Heart Gold and Pokemon Soul Silver. Cyndaquil was a strong Pokemon on my team, but I'd be lying if I said we didn't stumble over any obstacles. Like for example, the Whitney battle was difficult, but considering that almost everyone struggled with Whitney, I'd say that's okay. Not only does the evolution line of my starter Pokemon start off with an adorable Pokemon, but it also ends with a pretty badass looking monster. Typhlosion is definitely my favourite starter Pokemon of Johto, and like with Blastoise, I'm glad I chose it as my starter. Okay, so anyway, next is Hoenn, and fun fact, I chose the same starter Pokemon in the original Hoenn games as well as the remakes. This starter Pokemon was Sceptile. When I was younger, I was given my first Nintendo DS Lite, and for any of you who don't know, the DS Lite was awesome. Not only could you play DS games, but at the bottom you could insert a Game Boy game, so that's how I played Pokemon Sapphire. I really enjoyed the 3rd gen games, and also I enjoyed playing through them with my starter Pokemon, Trico. I remember watching the Hoenn anime as a child, and to me, Ash's Grovyle was just the coolest Pokemon. So of course I wanted to have my very own Grovyle in the games. And I did. So I chose Trico, and I was so happy when it evolved. It was as strong and as cool as I ever hoped for. And when it evolved further into a Sceptile, I didn't really care because I loved the whole evolution line so much. And also that's the reason why I chose Trico once again in Oras. At one point this evolution line was my favourite, and I won't forget that. But anyway, moving on to my favourite generation and the first Pokemon generation I played in, Sinnoh. I don't know how many videos I've mentioned it in, but for any long-time subscribers, you'll know that my first starter Pokemon was Chimchar. When I was younger, and even to this day, I saw Chimchar as this cute but cool-looking little fire monkey Pokemon. So I chose it as my starter Pokemon, and ever since then, I've been in love with the Pokemon as well as its evolution line. Infernape is actually one of my favourite Pokemon, and that's all because of Pokemon Platinum. When I chose Chimchar as my starter, I had big hopes, and this Pokemon certainly lived up to them. I remember going up against the first gym leader, Rock. He's a rock type gym leader, and since fire is weak to rock, I was a little bit concerned about facing up to him with my Chimchar. But whilst in Orberg City, my Chimchar evolved into a Monferno, and it learned Mach Punch. And because of this, I remember sweeping Rock with little to no difficulty. Once Monferno evolved again into an Infernape, this Pokemon was the true MVP of my team. I just love this whole evolution line so much, and I'm praying that we get Diamond and Pearl remakes this generation, because I'd love to return to Sinnoh and relive this journey. So next up is the Unova region, and the starter Pokemon I chose was Oshawott. I chose Oshawott over Tepig and Snivy because honestly, when I was younger, I didn't like their designs. And if I'm completely honest, I didn't love Oshawott's design either. I just really liked the color blue, so I chose Oshawott. To my surprise though, Oshawott was a strong Pokemon on my team, especially when it leveled up and eventually evolved. But something did put me off Oshawott, something that really changed my mind about the Pokemon: the Unova anime. When I began to watch the Unova anime, I really didn't like Ash's Oshawott. It was an annoying Pokemon to me, and this kind of swayed my judgment of Oshawott. But by the time I did watch the anime, I had a Samurott, and I liked that Pokemon. Just now, I wasn't a fan of its pre-evolution. Anyway, Samurott was a strong Pokemon on my team, and I enjoyed playing through the game with it, but sadly, I didn't pick it again in Pokemon Black 2 and White 2, because of the whole Oshawott ordeal. So this time I chose Tepig. Although I previously said I disliked its design, Tepig did grow on me after using it and its evolution line to play through the awesome story of Pokemon Black 2 and White 2. But if I had to decide which of the two I would replay through the games with now, honestly, I'd rather pick Snivy. So now we're getting to the more recent games, and next up is Pokemon X and Y. These games were pretty different to other Pokemon games, with better graphics and even the choice to play in 3D. These games were pretty enjoyable to me. But anyway, the starter Pokemon I chose in X and Y was Fennekin. But Fennekin didn't stay on my team for long because, like an idiot, I wanted to trade it away. So I started a new game where I now chose Chespin as my starter Pokemon. Wanting to forget the idiotic thing I did, I moved on to using Chespin, and this Pokemon was pretty fun to use. With Chespin, I really liked its design, and not only that, it was a pretty powerful Pokemon. We did struggle at the first gym though, but luckily by then, I had a Fletchling to help me, so it wasn't too much of a bother. But nevertheless, I liked having Chespin as a member of my party. Even when it evolved, I still liked Quilladin and even Chestnut because they're awesome Pokemon. Oh, and also, like I mentioned previously in the video, the Kanto starter I chose from Professor Sycamore was Squirtle. Although I did have a full party, the main members of my Kalos team were Chestnut, Blastoise, and Talonflame. The story and even the aftergame of X and Y may not have been perfect, but my team for the games was so lit. 10. Okay, bad joke. But speaking of Litten, this now brings us to the Alola region. Pokemon Sun and Moon are the most recent games, so my memories with my starter Pokemon are still pretty fresh in my brain. Alola, for me, was the region that introduced the best starter Pokemon, at least design-wise. From the get-go, I was Team Poplio, but just before the games came out, I changed to Team Litten. It was so hard deciding which of these Pokemon I was going to choose, but in the end, it didn't matter because I chose Rowlet. I'm that kind of guy who doesn't like to follow the crowd. I like to be different, and from the beginning, Rowlet had the lead in popularity of the Alola starters, so automatically I didn't want to choose it because everyone else was going to. But in the end, I don't even know why I did, but I chose Rowlet. I don't even regret my choice either because Rowlet's final evolution, Decidueye, is an awesome Pokemon. Not only is it a strong Pokemon, but it's also pretty useful too. If any of you who are watching are shiny hunters, you'll know what I'm talking about. Decidueye has access to the move False Swipe, so having this and being a ghost type, it's good for hunting Pokemon that have moves such as Takedown. The whole Rowlet evolution line is just awesome, and like I said, I don't regret my choice. But anyway guys, that's all I have time for this video, so if you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. Also, let me know in the comments the starter Pokemon you chose in Pokemon games. But for now, I've been PokéDan and you've been amazing. I'll see you guys next time.